Welcome to the Jillian Greyse Show, the podcast that doesn't just inform, it transforms. I'm Jillian Greyse, frequency architect, multi-dimensional strategist, and your guide through the unseen layers of reality. Each episode is a living transmission, crafted to rewrite your patterns, recalibrate your field, and activate the truth encoded in your DNA. We'll navigate the energetic architecture behind relationships, trauma, intuition, purpose, and power, and close with a guided activation to embed the shift into your system. This isn't self-help, it's subconscious reprogramming. This isn't coaching, it's timeline engineering. This isn't content, it's a frequency shift. And if you're done with surface level advice, if you're craving depth, data, and divine disruption, if you're ready to stop performing and start embodying, you're exactly where you need to be. My name is Jillian Greyse, and I'll see you there. Welcome to this episode of the Jillian Greyse Show. I am so excited to do this episode. I think this could be the most exciting episode that I have had the opportunity to really showcase for all of you. And the topic for this week is going to be sex, the energy of sex, and the transmission of frequency that happens during sex. And this is something that is so taboo in our culture that I don't see many people talking about. You do not see in the narrative anything that actually leads you towards the truth about sex, the energy, the frequency that gets cultivated. And one thing that is so important for anyone who is engaging in sex or sexually active to understand is the power that you're yielding. And the way that power has been hidden from us and the way that frequency can change your life if it's directed properly. So before I begin, I really want to take a moment to talk about all the different beliefs that are around how sex and the energy that occurs during a sexual connection flow. And we have so many different ancient understandings that support the frequency interchange that's taking place. So when you step outside of just what we're seeing or what you do see in what's shown to us about sex in our culture, and you really get into the understanding of the frequency, the learning of its depth, you are able to open up towards the truth of this in a way that can no longer be hidden from you, that you can no longer ignore. So first, tantric philosophy, which I'm sure many of you have heard of before, it has to do with working through that buildup of frequency within the body that teaches you that an orgasm is not an ending. So the frequency flow that happens prior to having that release of an orgasm is actually a cultivation. It's a doorway. It's a moment where the boundary between the self and the divine thins. The creative becomes spiritual energy in that split second. And that's far from what we get shown. And the first thing I'm going to do here is kind of just run through quickly the ancient philosophies behind this understanding, because they are deep. They have been circulating throughout our world for many, many, many centuries. And this knowledge needs to get out there. People need to understand this power. It is so imperative, especially as we're entering into this frequency, this new age energy that's coming in that has everything to do with your authentic abilities and your ability to step into that architect of your reality. Okay. Kundalini traditions say that energy that we feel during an orgasm is the same energy that awakens spiritual power. It's just expressed in different directions, and it can also be cultivated and shown what direction to express in. Taoist alchemy teaches that sexual energy is a life force energy, and when you direct it with intention, you're not just feeling pleasure, you're circulating power. The Hermetic teachings, which are ancient teachings, and I'm really going to encourage anybody, if you're not familiar with Hermetic prophecies, Hermetic teachings, they're very profound teachings. And what they taught as one of the most original belief systems that was ever circulating on our planet in modern day, they taught that sexual energy is the creative substance. It's the spark that turns intention into form. The Kabbalah teaches that sexual union mirrors the moment the universe was created, a fusion of energies that generates a new reality. And even Christian mysticism sees that the union of two people is a living metaphor as the union between the human soul and the divine. So across cultures for centuries, ancient traditions have all said the same thing. Sexual energy is sacred, it's creative, it's transformative, and we're directly aware of it. And when we are conscious of what we're doing, you're not just experiencing pleasure, you're shaping your reality. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to let that question circulate for a moment in your mind. Why do you think so many institutions throughout history have invested so much effort in regulating, moralizing, controlling, suppressing, and giving this very finite narrative about sex, sexuality, sexual energy? Do you think there was an accident? Do you think that something so large as the ability for us to create another human on this planet really comes down to just power, physical attraction, beauty, and primal instincts? Absolutely not. And the information supporting that, and the information that has been around for us to understand for centuries, strongly promotes otherwise. And if you become immersed at all in the frequency and the understanding of spiritual energy, there is always the story of when an awakening occurs throughout someone. There is this energy release, this rush. Some people do specific techniques in order to move it through. It's called the rise of the Kundalini, the rise of the Christ consciousness. Every theology has its way of framing this. But it's a period of time when you go into some deep meditation states or you go into some deeper states of being and you cause a release of energy. And that release of energy that gets achieved during extreme spiritual practices is the exact same feeling as an orgasm. Now, why would that be if the energy of an orgasm wasn't specifically related to a spiritual frequency that was getting released within us and just needed to be channeled properly? I don't think that the information and what we've been fed as a culture is a mistake. I think it is a deep understanding of the power that each one of us yield, and it's also a deep understanding of how that power needs to be controlled. And that is why I'm doing this podcast and I want to get this word out. And this is something that I have talked about with my clients as we worked one on one throughout several years together. I am a strong proponent of understanding how this energy is used and also teaching people how to channel it and what direction for it to go into, because this can become the ultimate manifestation tool, everybody. And we're going to chat about why in just a few moments. But first, I want to keep kind of debunking this concept about the sex being this primal instinct that all of us are supposed to only utilize during procreation. And they're very much about survival, and it's very much about instinct, and it's very much about the physical exchange. What happens in a society where our sexual energy, our core creation, is actually trapped in the first chakra? It's locked into fear. It's locked into survival. It's locked into power dynamics instead of letting the creativity, the intuition, the connection rise within it. We are all giving up one of our strongest abilities to have that divine frequency alive and within us. And I'm speaking out so much about this because I'm seeing this rise in culture of people leaning towards psychedelics and people depending on things outside of themselves that they are calling quote unquote natural, but are actually changing their own frequency in a way that their frequency is not able to do on its own. And we chatted about this a little bit when I talked about alcohol on one of my last podcasts. So I want to encourage all of you to take a peek at that. And I don't care what you're doing. If you're altering your natural state, then you're not you. So if you're taking a psychedelic to achieve some kind of connection with divine, then you're not achieving connection with divine. You're achieving a connection that you aren't prepared to achieve, or else you'll be able to do that on your own, because your mind also releases the same chemicals that those psychedelics give you. So you have the ability to do it. So the point of your existence is to love yourself enough to do the work. And one of our biggest power tools is the energy in the frequency of an orgasm. We can use it to generate any kind of energy that we want throughout the body. We can use it as a tool for healing. We can use it as a tool for manifestation. We can use it as a tool to bring our existence of what we want into life. That's why it creates another soul, because it's the strongest power of that spark that we yield within ourselves. And we have been taught, and it has been drilled in our head, all of the wrong concepts related to this dynamic. for as long as we can exist, as long as we've existed in modern times. From every single belief system and the writings projected from those belief systems that were designed to create this box where we lived within a very predictable process so that we would be predictable and we would never rise to our own true power. But that information is getting out more and more. So I want to kind of tweak the way you're thinking of your connection with your partner. I want to move to a different platform on how you look at sex and give you perspective on really the full integrated level of how sex works in your world and what it's designed to do. So, I first wanted to take a moment to give you not only the ancient knowledge behind it, but also give you some questions to ask yourself when there is groups of individuals or groups of systems that have been trying to snuff you off the trail for years, so they've been trying to push information and really, really try to get you to feel a certain way, always question that because there's normally a power dynamic involved in it, and you are the one that they're seeking to control. So have an awareness in your mind if something like that occurs. And we've done this around sex in so many different ways. You even hear the term sex sells. It sells because the frequency of what it is so incredibly powerful that it's frustrating to see people waste it and to see people not channel it properly. So, in our current times, our thought process around sex is that it's a primal instinct. It has to do with procreation. It is strictly related to physical connection. And of course, your desirability for it goes down with age, which is another huge debunk. And we're going to talk about that. And when that happens and you take those frequencies and you move them down to what I call the lower energy centers. So we have different energy centers within our body, and each one of them have different roles. They're like the mini brains throughout our entire system. And we have lower mini brains. We have our survival instincts, we have our procreation, our call to procreate, we have our ability to want to have a life that others look at and are envious of. So all of those frequencies intertwine in what we package currently as a sexual connection. And then it's also desirability. So it's also how attractive you are, how much you can pull in or you can allow someone to come in to mate with you, what makes you desirable to another being. That's the other energy that is so promoted around sex. That allows people to dumb down the frequency to something that's almost meaningless, especially beyond the moment. But what our ancient cultures knew is if you take that moment where you're connecting with the frequency of someone that you love, someone you care about, someone that you want to be in creation in tandem with, you can take that energy and you can move it all the way up your spine. And you can allow it to move past those very controlled lower frequency centers or lower brains of the body. And you can get the opportunity to bring them up into your creative centers so that you can channel them in the way that you want. And that's the beauty of the power that sits inside of every single one of us. So when we have cultures that really push this like Tinder lifestyle where, you can go and you can have sex with as many partners as you want, there doesn't have to be any kind of emotional connection, and you engage in that. I want you to understand that you're actually engaging in giving away your ability to create and your ability to channel the world and the life that you want. And the reason that those things have become so big is because they've been promoted to become so big. I mean, that's a purposeful action. Whatever you get something that hits mainstream and hits like wildfire, there's always an intention behind that. And it's never an intention to help you. So you have to step around it. And you have to start asking proper questions. It's a part of intelligence, becoming aware of all the different psychological operations that are at play at any given moment so that you can take back your creative ability. Now, I'm well aware that there are plenty of people out there that are very comfortable living surface lifestyles. And there's different levels of the existence of being on this planet and what you're here to do. And that's perfectly okay. But in those lifestyles, at some point in your incarnation on this earth as a being, you're going to start asking deeper questions. This often happens towards people's midlife, where they'll go through like a midlife crisis, quote unquote, they say. You start to ask questions on this can't be all there is, because those moments of that connection and just having that primal sex, they get old. No matter how much you do them, no matter how many different faces, eventually there's something missing feeling within you. And you want to find the answers to that. And that's why so many people start to struggle during that impasse in life, or that half point of what people want to state in life, where we go through one period of existence to another. And one of the reasons that we go through such a breakdown during that period is because everything we've been taught, the way we're supposed to channel our frequencies, the way we're supposed to think, the way we're supposed to be, it's not reality. It's not what our soul intended. It's not our authenticity. And when you hit that midpoint, that authenticity rises and it wants answers. And it no longer wants you to settle for the shiny things that have been drawing your attention, that have been pulling you away from your true self for years and years and years. It wants you to become internal, to find that piece of you that is the creator, to make this experience on this planet during this time as powerful and as filled with your authentic self as you can. So, what happens during that midlife period is all of those veils start to lift, and we start to realize kind of the shakiness or the fakeness of all of it. And you see a lot of systems internally for people to collapse, and people have many different ways of handling this. People try to fill it with the old things that they think will work, and they will buy fancy things, or they will decide they're going to reinvent themselves, but they always end up at the same point, at that same emptiness period. And I blame a huge part of that in the procreation and the sex energy that we have been force fed. Because if we knew how to take that energy and make it our own, and we used it outside of those primal instincts, which when you reach a certain point in life are no longer the most important things that need to be focused on, because you move out of a state where you maybe are more financially stable, you no longer are looking to procreate. And when all of those things are stripped away, what gets stripped away too is that frequency of sex and the exchange of sex. It's one of the reasons we start to experience sexual dysfunction as we age, because we removed the very quality that it was there to be igniting. So there's really less of a purpose for it to continue to stay alive within you. I want to urge you to be different. I want to urge you to be greater. I want to urge you to look at it for what it is, because that is going to be the pathway to the most satisfying sex life you could ever imagine. And it's not on an app. It's not through Tinder. It's not through how much quote unquote experience you can get. It is about you. Like everything on this planet, it's an internal job. And it's about channeling that energy into a direction that's going to bring you to life. So, how do you do this? I want to encourage all of you to first go at that narrative within your mind. Go at the narrative that you have to be desirable, that sex is only about procreation, that it's about a power exchange. I want you to go at that narrative in your mind. Really look at it and see how it suits you, how it fits you, where you fall in to your belief with that in long term. Because as soon as you start to really poke at it, you're going to find that it's extremely fragile. And it falls apart within seconds because it doesn't make logical sense. And then as soon as I can break you from that system of thinking, I then want you to start trying some new things when you are with your partner. And when I say with your partner, I mean any partner that you are in a connected, loving relationship with. This is a lot more challenging if you're jumping from relation to relation, because part of being able to cultivate creation means that you have to be connected to the person who's in front of you. And not just we chatted a few times, we talked. I mean a connection. The power of being connected with an individual enough to say, I want to create with you. That's the next question you want to ask yourself is, in your current relationship or relationships that you're working through right now, is the power of connection important enough with the person that you're with for you to want to create with them? And if the answer is yes, then you're definitely graduated from the elementary school of what sex is, and you've stepped into that next level where you're at least understanding that it is a creation between two powerful souls making a choice to be together in that moment. And then once you get to that point, that's when it starts to get fun. That's when being playful in the bedroom totally shifts. It can still be an external playful in any way that you're connected with sexually. You can still continue to do the same things that you always did. But as you're rising that feeling within you, the feeling where that orgasm originates from, I want you to become more internal. I want you to focus on bringing that energy up from the lower parts of your pelvis and allowing it to move through your body all the way up to the crown of your head. And I want you to keep pulling that energy through as if it's a train moving through a system that flows from the bottom of your spine to the top of your spine. And you can visualize this in any way you want. You can choose to visualize it in a way that's intuitive and just let it come to you as you go. You can choose it to move through you in different colors. So it can move through in the color of green, it can move through in the color of red, it can move through in the color of white. However you want to channel that energy and view it in your mind's eye, I want you to start directing it. When you start visualizing, you're taking direction of a frequency. And that's why manifestation has become such a powerful thing. And visualizing has become such a big thing for people who are even athletes or even at the top of their game in their corporations. Visualizing where you want to be is key, everybody, because that visualization is a creation, even though it's within your mind. And then you can empower that visualization to come into creation based on your focus of it as you move forward. That sexual energy is the same thing. So start with visualizing it moving up your spine and then hitting that crown and allowing that energy when you have that ultimate release and that orgasm hits to actually be a chain of a channel moving up your system that explodes. You'll be clarifying your entire frequency field by doing that. You'll be allowing that endorphin release to be recalibrated within you as opposed to just being released into some animalistic behavior that we have absolutely outgrown because we're no longer animals in the middle of survival at all times. We've evolved. Why hasn't sex? And I'll tell you why it hasn't. Because this is the information no one wants you to know. If you know that you hold the power within you to transcend any frequency within you, then that means that you are very powerful. And for me, I always want to pass that information on to you. And you can do with it what you want, but at least you have it and it's then yours. Okay, so that's a really great way of utilizing that sexual energy as it moves up your spine. Then, if you want to take it a step further, you could take a moment before that orgasm hits and you can visualize something you want, something you're trying to manifest, something you're trying to bring into life for yourself. Hold that visualization and then let that orgasm energy draw that frequency towards what you're visualizing and allow it to explode. You will be amplifying the signal of what you're trying to put out in a way that is so strong, so powerful, that those in charge of this world don't even want you to know about it. But the truth is, the creation between two souls, the yin and the yang coming together, the positive and negative frequencies, the feminine and the masculine, combining as one is unstoppable. And when you do that, the entire world shifts around you. You don't shift around it.
Before we continue, let's take a breath. You're here for a reason, not by accident, not by coincidence, but through divine orchestration, and these words were meant for you. This is your moment to rewrite humanity. Think of one soul in your life who needs this transmission and send them this podcast episode now. There are so many out there who are silently struggling. Our role is to reach them, to ignite something ancient and true, whether it's someone you love, someone lost in the noise, or someone ready to remember who they are. This is your chance. Because vibrational awareness doesn't just shift minds, it realigns lifelines. It reawakens paths. It reconnects souls to their original blueprint. Be the bearer of that light. It isn't just generous, it's sacred work. Share this, speak it, seed it. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement, and you're a vital part of it. Let's rewrite humanity together, one frequency, one soul, one remembrance at a time. Now we continue.
So I want you to play with those concepts. Play with how they feel for you, because I will also guarantee you that you will orgasm better and harder than you ever imagined when you start to visualize and direct the energy, because it begins to be your cultivation, not your release. And that is such a powerful change of the spectrum that you'll never want to go back. So the second thing I want to really impress upon everybody is that Youth has been framed as the peak of desirability. It's framed as when the only stage in life that's where sexuality is actually valid, and it's the only time in life where sexual expression is socially acceptable. Meanwhile, anyone who's past, let's say their 30s, often become desexualized, dismissed, made invisible, and framed as quote unquote past their prime. This wasn't random. It's a way to disconnect people from the power that matures with age because youth is inexperienced. It's easier to influence, it's less embodied, it's less aware of their own energy. And mature adults are harder to control, they're more intuitive, they're definitely more sovereign, more aware of self, and more energetically potent. So, if you want a population that never realizes their own power, you're going to glorify a stage of life where people haven't really discovered it yet. And you're going to try to capitalize off of that only. Ancient traditions, all of them that we've already talked about, each one of them talk about how that power deepens with age. It doesn't decline. Tantra, Taoism, Kabbalah, Hermeticism, they all teach that sexual energy becomes more refined with age, the body becomes more sensitive, the mind becomes more focused, the spirit becomes more available, the intention becomes more powerful, and the energy becomes easier to direct. In other words, the older you get, the more potent your sexual energy becomes. But because we've spent so long teaching people and pushing into their minds the wrong concepts of what sex is, we actually devalue and we create a frequency that causes that sexual energy to start to dissipate purely based on what we believe and what we've been telling ourselves, which is one of the biggest lies that our culture has ever experienced. So, if a society wants to suppress your true power, the easiest strategy would be to focus only on sexualizing youth, to desexualize maturity, and to hide the fact that energy grows with age, which are all things that it's currently doing. So, I want to say to all of you out there that are not embracing aging, that aren't embracing the way that you look, that want to make sure that you dump chemicals all over your head so that your hair looks like something it no longer is, that want to shoot things in your face because you want to be something that you're not, it's not working. You are a pawn in a game that is teaching you to be something that is controllable, and you bought into it 100%. So I want to push the button of you waking up to you, stepping into you, and embodying who you are, because everything you're doing is because you've been taught that your value is lessened when your value is greater. And imagine what an injustice that is. You're taking your greater self and you're putting it down every single day. No wonder we become prime for disease and issues as we age. We're taking away our core and we are forgetting our own truth. What kind of soul wants to live under those conditions? So, when sexuality is phrased as youth only, it makes people become stuck in those primal energy centers, like we just talked about. And those primal energy centers are the smallest part of our lives now because we are at a point where we are opening up to so many other understandings of frequency and so much more depth to what our human existence is about. It's time to also tweak our perspectives on all of these other things so they can come alive. What our current culture does to stop that frequency from becoming alive and prevent people from accessing this potency, it teaches you that there's shame in aging. It sexualizes youth and disconnects sexuality from wisdom. This keeps a culture stuck in the lowest energy expression of sex that it possibly could be in. So I want to flip the switch. I want to flip the narrative on that sexual energy being so youth based and say we were lied to so that we didn't realize that that power actually continued to evolve with the age and the amount of maturity and experience that we had throughout our life. And as your soul becomes deeper connected to the meaning of why you're here, then that opens up and empowers a direction within you that is unstoppable. And this is a threat to every system out there that's been trying to keep us small. So if nothing really feels right around that sex and that energy and that connection, and it just seems so disjointed, it's also one of the reasons why people feel shameful during that experience. There's also another reason why people have a release of emotions after they orgasm. We have been told one of the biggest lies that is out there about our own true power and how we can channel it. So I want to encourage all of you, start playing around with this. You can't make a mistake. any further than the mistakes have already been made because you followed what the narrative has told you sex is about. Start playing around with channeling that energy, with cultivating, with deepening it. When you're with your partner, you can build it to a certain point and not allow that orgasm to fully release and then start and build it again. You can go into circular patterns of building that energy within as you are in that union with the person that you chose to create with. And the power that unleashes within you, that's your inner truth. That's where you've been hiding. And that's why I want to encourage you, all of you, to bring alive within you, because knowing this is one of the secrets to any manifestation, any ability to architect your life in any moment of creation that you can possibly imagine. It is pure gold. Okay, now we're going to do a guided talk down like we always do at the end of every single episode. And I am going to walk you through the opening of that sexual energy. And this is a guided talk down that you can do and understand deeper for yourself. And during the act of sex, you can actually use this visualization to help bring up that energy and allow it to come alive within you. So after you practice it enough, it's rather simple. And you can start using this as your first elementary step towards cultivating that energy and directing it the way that you want. But before we go into that talk down, I really want to encourage all of you. Please share this with everyone you know. I know it's a taboo topic, but it's a taboo topic on purpose. We need to get the word out so that people can start to take control of their own bodies, their own minds, their own creation energy. I'm incredibly passionate about this. If any of you have any questions, feel free to email me. You can also send me a direct message on any social media, which is mainly Instagram and Facebook, but feel free to send me some messages. I'm here to help all of us through this period of learning. And I am an open book. I'm going to give you all the knowledge that I can. And I admit I don't know everything there is to know, but I'm always open to sharing everything I learn. So thank you so much for being on this journey with me. And we are ready to awaken that inner fire. Take a moment to close your eyes and let your breath slow, focusing all your attention at the base of your spine. Imagine a warm ember glowing there, deep, steady, and alive. With each inhale, feel that ember brighten. With each exhale, feel it expand, warming that pelvic bowl, the hips, the lower back. Say silently, I awaken my life force energy. On your next inhale, imagine that warmth turning into a slow moving current as it begins to rise from the root into your lower belly. Feel it move like water flowing, fluid and creative. Let it continue upwards to the area just beneath your ribs. Here is where the energy becomes fire, confidence, heat, personal power. Say silently, my energy rises with ease. Guide the current upwards towards your heart, feeling it soften, open, expand like a warm light spreading all the way across your chest. Let that light rise into your throat. Feel spacious, clarity, and truth coming together. Say silently, I allow my energy to flow freely. Now bring that current into the space between your eyebrows. It becomes cool, focused, and electric, a pulse of intention. finally guide that energy to the crown of your head and imagine a lotus opening, petals unfolding, light streaming upward, and say to yourself, my energy connects the flow of my divine and my creation. Take a slow inhale from the base of your spine all the way to the crown. Hold it for a moment. And then exhale, imagining the energy cascading down around you like a waterfall of light, surrounding you, protecting you, and empowering you. Rest in this sensation for a few breaths. When you're ready, place your hand over your heart and your lower belly. Feel the warmth you've cultivated. Whisper to yourself, my energy is awake. My soul is alive. And whenever you're ready, you can now open your eyes. I want you to come back to this meditation as often as you want. Whether it's during the day when you're just trying to train that energy on how to flow, or whether it's in the next moment where you're having that creation opportunity open and come alive between you and your partner. Imagine the closeness that you can have if both of you settle on the same manifestation before you decide that you're going to make love to each other. The power in that is unstoppable. And I'm excited for you to play with it and make it your own. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Jillian Greyse Show. I urge you to please write a review. I desperately need reviews, and I do not want to beg for them, but I really, really need some reviews. I have thousands of listeners each week, and I know it's that extra step, but whatever platform you're on, that's how the algorithm finds us. So take a moment to write me a review. And of course, if there's ever any questions you have, you can DM me on any of my social medias or send me an email. Thank you so much, and I'll chat with you next week. Thank you for listening to The Jillian Greyse Show. You've just experienced a frequency shift. Don't let it fade. If this episode moved something in you, share it. Send it to someone who's ready to remember who they are. And if you're called to go deeper, subscribe, leave a review, and stay tuned because this is just the beginning. I'm Jillian Greyse, and this is more than a show. It's a signal, it's a recalibration, and it's a return to your original blueprint. Until next time, stay aligned, stay awake, and keep architecting the reality that remembers you.